We're here at the SWIPE Expo in Tucson, Arizona. We grabbed a good friend of the podcast, Mr. Matt Mandel, CEO of Sunfed, also board member, executive committee member. Boy, how many titles are in there?
Past chairman.
Past chairman,
Just keep going.
emeritus. Is there any emeritus going
I
on
hope
there?
not.
Okay, well, you're
I
not
think
old.
I'm still
Yeah,
alive
you're
and
not
still
old enough.
kicking.
You're not old enough for emeritus, but yeah, still kicking. Definitely heavily involved, obviously, in the show. So before we kind of get started into the doom and gloom, um, any reactions that you'd share with us as far as the expo so far? I mean, obviously, very well attended. Has to be exciting, particularly for the board and the committees and everybody involved from an organizational perspective. Any particular feedback maybe that you could share that you've gotten from folks attending, maybe even for the first time, like us?
I think coming off last year, there was a lot of excitement about this coming year. It was a really rough year, and yes, people still turned out. We've got a great turnout. People really excited. Obviously, we've had education sessions all morning talking about Black Swan events, talking about artificial intelligence, the future of our industry and in imports in particular. Obviously, I'm not going to get political, but the current administration is making things interesting for us and keeping everybody on their toes. So just talking about the importance of agility, knowing what we're doing it well, doing it to the best of our capacity, making sure that we're taking care of our customers. Thankfully, we have great retail attendants, food service attendants, wholesalers. It really is one of the premier shows. It's the only show in the Southwest. So if you're not here, you really should be. But awesome turnout, awesome energy in the building right now. And can't wait for the show floor to open.
Yeah, me neither. For sure. It's been great. Tucson's a great town. I hadn't been here in a while and I had forgotten how beautiful it is. So definitely, if you're thinking about coming to Swipe, you should put it on your calendar for next year. It's a can't miss event. As you mentioned, a lot of great education this morning. I think, I say this with a smile because as a younger individual attending these shows, which I've been doing for many, many years, the education parts weren't quite as important on my list, but I think obviously as I matured, for lack of a better term, if that's even possible, there's great content, great information. I think people were hanging on every word this morning as the speakers, and you had great speakers, panelists that you're fortunate to have, and people want to hear what they have to say. So
I think it's also, about having good content. I think in the past, some of the, not here, but some education panels is people just talking to you, right? And I think this was more of a conversation among the panelists, but also, we had some interaction from the crowd as well, had some good questions. We want to make sure that the information we're providing is useful,
sure.
And entertaining, but also engaging, because we want to provide information that people want to hear. And I think all of the topics right now are super relevant to the industry that we have going on today. And with things moving and changing as fast as they are, you need to make sure that the content is super relevant to the time that we're living.
Couldn't agree more. What the one that sticks out in my mind right now is the one that's about to begin, and we'll, after we wrap up here, pop in and hear what they're talking about or what they have to say about tariffs, right? I mean, you operate on the border, largely in Mexico. Obviously, it's a challenge, right? So anything in particular that sticks out as far as tariffs are concerned, like what y'all are having to do and spool up and educate even internally to assure compliance?
I mean, the tariff conversation, obviously we've been living it for about a year now. I think the biggest issue is the uncertainty. We had tariffs, we had no tariffs. They were there, they weren't. They were in force for 3 days and they pulled them back. If you're USMCA compliant, it's like you're exempted, but then there's threats and, just the constant uncertainty of what's going on. I think, from a business planning standpoint, we don't necessarily know what's going to come tomorrow or the next day. As the wind changes, the conversation changes. But really, making sure that we're talking to our customers first and foremost, because whenever we have additional costs, obviously we want to try to pass that on to our customers. Every customer is going to be reticent to take on the additional cost. So
you don't say.
It's amazing how
it's
that
funny
works.
How that happens.
So really just trying to find a middle ground where nobody's getting squeezed too tight. Inflationary concerns to the end consumer have been, front of mind. So, really having those difficult conversations with your customers, and that's really when you start to realize whether or not you're selling a customer or whether you actually have a relationship with that customer, and make sure that we can do what's right for everybody at the end of the day.
Yeah, totally makes sense. As a leader of an organization, I was about to ask you what decisions that you could share with us are taking most of your mental bandwidth. I could probably presume that would be one of them. Is that correct? Is there anything else that you could share with us that sort of keeps you up at night?
Yeah, I mean, listen, our organization, we talk about selling produce, but frankly, we're selling service and we're selling information. The best information that we can possibly offer our customers, help them make better decisions. That ultimately helps us in the end. And then really it's people. I mean, we are a people-driven business, but the people that work with me and for Sunfed, they really are the ones that are driving the business and ensuring that we're taking care of them, that they feel comfortable to make the decisions that are going to drive the business forward. They don't have to be asking permission for, moving one little piece from here to there, giving them agency and ensuring that as a company, everybody understands the direction that we're moving, getting everybody on the boat, paddling at the same time in the same direction. Tariffs are always going to be in the conversation. We're in the business of selling fruits and vegetables, but at the end of the day, we're really selling service and information. We need to make sure that we have the best information as to what's happening at the field level, what's happening within our own organization, and what's happening at the customer level too, to make sure that we're providing timely information, correct, accurate information, and really just building trust both with our growers and our customers. And then the people, really the people that drive our organization, they are the most important. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable making the decisions, knowing what it is that the company is trying to achieve at the end of the day, and then letting them do their jobs. If you have the right people, you don't need to be micromanaging. You let them know what needs to get done. They go ahead and they get taken care of. And so taking care of my people really is.
It borders the cliche, but it's so true. It's all about people. Everything's about people. What risks, if any other, feel unavoidable right now from a cost input standpoint, regulatory? I mean, again, it's hard to ignore the tariffs component, but anything else that sticks out?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat part and parcel with the tariff conversation is obviously the administration that we have right now. It seems every day there's a new direction as to, where their focus is. Obviously ICE has been in the news lately. We have not had any issues with that. Thankfully, we have a fully compliant workforce. But just, what is going to be next? After the Venezuela incident, the president mentioned Mexico in his speech after that. And so there's a lot of people, you got your spidey sense going off as to what is coming. Is something coming? Should we be on alert or should we just lose sleep at night? So maintaining agility as an organization so that whatever it is that does come, we're able to adapt, adjust, and continue providing our customers with perfect produce.
Well, that's sort of a spoiler alert. My next question was going to be, what needs to go right this year? And I think you answered that question. So for the record, that's what needs to go right.
Everything needs to go right.
For sure. Personally, as a leader, something else that I didn't come to, unfortunately, very late in my career, and I've encouraged younger folks that I know from a leadership perspective, educating yourself as a leader, anything that recently you've been focused on from like a growth and development perspective, leadership. I mean, clearly there's a lot of self-education that continues throughout one's career. Some people come to it late, like myself, and I'm very passionate about it now, both personally and professionally. You strike me as somebody that probably spends a significant amount of time doing the same. Any concepts that maybe right now kind of turning you on more than others?
I mean, yeah, personally, I listen to a ton of podcasts and read a lot of books, actually listen to audiobooks on my commute. But honestly, just trying to stay up to date with things that are changing. There's the education session on artificial intelligence. I think it's one of those things. While I did get my degree in computers, that was several decades ago. But
the size of a refrigerator.
Exactly. Programming in languages that no longer exist. But really just trying to stay abreast of the new technologies because while there is a lot of hesitance and reticence on people adopting those technologies, the fact of the matter is employees will not be replaced with artificial intelligence in our industry. People will be replaced if they don't know how to use artificial intelligence in the workplace. So it is really just making sure that they understand what the options are, how to use it best. And really there's every single one of us, no matter, what a great thinker we think we are, there's a lot of mundane tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis. And being able to take some of that tedious burden out of the day-to-day, hand that off to AI, it really does allow you to free up some of that brain power to focus on other things. And so how do we get people that, frankly, people are coming in and they're busting their butts, sun up to sundown. Where do you find the time to try to educate them about these different technologies? And how do you try to ensure they have the bandwidth to understand these things and not see them as a threat, but see them as an aid in doing their job?
Look, denial is not a good strategy for sure. From someone, along with our good friend Craig Slate, took on the challenge of creating this podcast. A lot of it was the desire to not be left behind. I have mentors in my past, particularly you mentioned computers, particularly the early days of the internet, that I admired because they jumped in and educated themselves, perhaps partially out of fear, but also maybe interest to be part of the solution, right? And benefit from those tools and benefit from that technology. And I always found that very admirable. It's something that I recognized early on. And look, I'm not breaking the sound barrier as far as artificial intelligence or education on AI and et cetera, but I'm interested. And I definitely think there's going to be a huge impact over time based on all the technologies. So self-education is a big part of it. I mean, you talk about actually providing education for folks. A lot of good companies do that. And I think denial, like I said, is definitely not a good strategy. So
yeah, and frankly, I don't think it really matters whether it's based out of self-interest or, fear. The fact of the matter is you'd better educate yourself or you're going to be left behind, right?
sure.
I also had the pleasure of serving the IFPA's Emerging Leader Program in December. They thankfully do that here in my backyard, which makes it super convenient. But, that was a huge topic. These are all young leaders coming up. What's next? What do I need to do to pull myself out of the day-to-day and actually start to begin to think like a leader? And that was the number one thing I told people. I said, just make sure that you're never being left behind. Podcasts, books, whatever, however you choose to consume the information, just make sure that you're consuming it. There's tons and tons of good books out there. There's plenty of bad ones too, but you're not going to know if you don't open the cover and start reading.
Sure. It also opens up, I think, a lot of folks don't realize that sometimes they're either have an aptitude for leadership or that they're destined for leadership or even have any interest in leadership. And that self-education fosters and builds more of those feelings, if you will, internally, I think. And it's look, it's a good thing. It's all a good thing.
Well, and frankly, in our business, there tends to be a tendency, whoever your top sales guy is, oh, we need a sales manager, make it that guy. When a lot of the time, he's an awesome salesperson or she's an awesome salesperson, but they're just not a good leader or a good manager,
or administrator.
Right? You need to be able to have the touch with people and get the job done at the end of the day. And so it really is, looking across your entire team, evaluating everybody's strengths and weaknesses. And some people, they don't want to be leaders.
Sure.
And
More
honestly,
individual contributor.
But some of the people that don't want to be leaders are the best ones. And so it's how do you draw that out of people? Because they clearly have it in them. And you see people, they're gravitating towards somebody when they need help or when they're looking for advice. It's like, those are the people you really want to say, all right, how do you get them to step up? How do you put them in a position where they are a leader, even if they don't feel like they should be or want to be?
It's a call to duty. It's a call to duty to a certain point. So, well, Matt, thank you for your time. As mentioned before, there's another session about to go on. We're both interested in seeing, so we're going to break away now for a second. But for those of you watching, we're here again at SWIPE Expo in Tucson, Arizona. Don't miss it. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're probably not here, but don't miss it next year. It's a great event. We'll be back soon.
SwipeExpo.com.